So this Mastiff is Poppy, who is a very fearful Mastiff. And he is, or she, excuse me, is meeting with Laura, who just joined our team. And Laura has a lot of experience working with very fearful dogs at rescues. So we can zoom in a little bit. So what we're trying to do is just facilitate a good positive meeting. So the house that she lives in is over here behind the trailer. And so basically what we want the dog to do is be able to approach. First I did this, and now Laura's doing this. And just we want the dog to approach on its own terms, so we're not pulling. And having good things happen. Now Laura's throwing food at Poppy, and when it comes to food, the most important thing is the temperature. The smell is number one, taste is number three, temperature is number two. So if you can use warm food, that's ideal. Something with a strong aroma. Now Laura, if you know, she's tossing treats and it just looks like she's tossing, but she's actually tossing strategically. Some of these treats she's throwing behind the dog, which is helping the dog move away from her, which is sometimes just almost like teaching the dog, hey, you can move away from things you don't like. So you see the tail's low, you see the body is hunched over, there's a lot of jitteriness, there's a little bit of shaking. All these things are indications that the dog is not comfortable. And you can pretty much tell by just looking at her body language. So when you have a dog like this, you want to go really slow. You want to make sure the dog feels like it can do it on its own pace. So you see Laura's pointing out a couple treats there that she missed, but we're not asking for any more than what the dog can do. Now you hear a little bit of the sound of the lawnmower. If you're doing this sort of thing, you have a fearful dog, don't do it when somebody is trimming the weeds or mowing the lawn or there's a crying baby or an alarm or anything like that that can add stress. The dog's already stressed out. We want to do everything we can to reduce the stress and help the dog feel comfortable and relaxed. And so you don't need any actual additions. So you see that jumpiness and the twitchiness. So being outside is great because there's all the distractions. Although the sound of the lawnmower is not what we're looking for, it is a distraction. Also outside there's a million escape routes, and so a lot of people in their house, dogs feel more confined, and that can amplify the behavior. Now the guardians here brought her out because she's off leash, because she is kind of fearful and she stays with them. If your dog is a flight risk, we wouldn't certainly want to do that. However, if you have tension on leash, that can add stress and anxiety. Also, some dogs, if they have a very stressful, having an attachment around the neck can contribute to the stress as well. So in those sort of dogs, a harness is ideal. But in this case, being able to be off leash is wonderful. So you see, she's approaching, you know, she's looking up, and Laura, there we go. So when Laura feels it's a little bit too much, she's throwing in a different direction. And you see that little shiver. But she's not barking, she's not lunging, and she's not staring with hard eyes. So sometimes you have to facilitate just initial greetings like this so the dog just has a positive interaction, and then maybe the person doesn't even come inside, so you might have to meet outside like this 1 or 2 times. Now you see there's a trailer here. The dog actually lives to the left, in the house to the left, and so we picked the position by the trailer because we didn't want the dog to see us as soon as it came out of the door. So it got a whole bunch of treats first before it actually saw me. I was basically doing kind of similar to what Laura's doing here. The dog's more reactive to males versus females. So after having a fairly good greeting, we had the dog move away, then Laura switched spots with me, and she's doing the same thing. So if you have a fearful dog, you might need to do this a couple times, and if your dog's overly fearful, you might actually leave the treat trail to the place where the person's gonna be, but the first couple times the person isn't actually there. So the dog gains confidence in the experience. Oh, sometimes I come out, I get treats, I follow this treat trail, we go around to my neighbor around the corner, and then there's a plethora of a pile of treats there. After doing that 2 or 3 times, the dog's like, I love this activity. Then what we can do is then have somebody there, but the person there needs to be very soft. Now, if you notice, Laura's sitting down. Now, Laura's facing a little bit, which is fine. Ideally, you want the dog to approach you from the side. A front facing is confrontational to dogs, and Laura's avoiding direct eye contact. She's not trying to talk to the dog. We also advise the guardians not to say, it's okay, good girl. A lot of times when people's dogs are fearful, they say, it's okay, it's all right, it's okay, it's all right. And they make a command word for the dog to get nervous, because the only time they hear that expression is when they are nervous. So, and also a last little note, the guardian's not doing it here, but we don't ever want to use a choke chain, prong collar, shot collar for a fearful dog. That'll make it worse. Actually, if you can hold up a sec, can you leave him right there and I'll drive him for you? That's a fearful dog. We have a mail carrier approaching, and he was a very cautious guy. He asked, and so we're gonna kind of wrap this up in a sec, and then we'll let him do his business. All right, so if you have a fearful dog, doing greetings outside like this with a trail of treats is a really nice way to set your dog up for success.